We are up to the Mishnah on Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph. 7 lines from the bottom. A Nazir that's drinking wine a whole day. A Nazir is not allowed to drink wine. If he's drinking wine, he's at a Suda. We had this was referenced earlier in the Gemara. He's only chayiv once. He gets a Asra beforehand, and then that's all the same. It's Amulay al Tishta al Tishta Vu Shaisa. But if he has someone telling him every hour, don't drink anymore, you shouldn't drink, you're not allowed to drink. Each time he's warned separately, he gets another lav, and he gets a separate chi of Makkos. If he was being metam himself, a nazir is also asked to be metam to mesim. If he's standing in a graveyard the entire day, nechayev alachas. Amule al tetama, hu metama chayev al kol achas v'achas. If he's metam himself again, he's still going to be chayev, and that could even mean just standing in the. He's standing in the graveyard. But if they tell, even it means they tell them, they give him a separate warning, he's going to be chayiv each time he was warned. It's like hard for, I think it's harder for Yisraelim to imagine this. Like you say, once he's tameh, what's the problem to stay tameh? Like but I know as a kayin, even though I'm obviously when my father was nifter, I went into the basic forest. I became tameh, but this still remains an isser. I'm still not allowed to go back into a basic forest. A third restriction on Nazirim is that they're not allowed to cut the hair. If he was cutting his hair, he shaved off all his hair, maybe, even if he did it 10 times in a day. If he keeps on shaving it off, whatever, the micrometer of hair that grew, he takes a shaver and shaves it off, he's going to be chayiv. Now we're finally moving off of a nazir. We're talking about any person who was wearing klayim. He's only chayiv one. They told him don't wear it, and he took off the clothing and put it back on. The Gemara is going to talk about what this paishut v'loivish is. The others, we didn't say they had to stop doing what he was doing and restart it. Chayiv al kol achas v'achas. He was chayiv for each one. Zak the Gemara. Yesh chayrish. Zak the Mishnah. The Mishnah continues with a not directly related to this question. Good evening. We just turned the page to the second part of the Mishnah. Chaf Aleph Amud Beis.
So Chaf Aleph Amud Beis, and we started from where? We started from
the Mishnah, right, like the bottom.
Chaf Aleph Amud
Aleph. So continuing with the Mishnah, the first part of the Mishnah had just said the din that we had said before, that if someone is over on a lav, if he keeps being over on the lav, he's going to only be chayiv one. If he gets a hasra in the middle, he's going to be chayiv for each hasra separately. And there's really no. I think the Rishonim explained why the Mishnah repeats itself and gives all these different examples of the same rule. Yesh chayrish telem echad b'chayiv alav mishum shmein alav. The Mishnah says there's someone who can plow a single row, and he's in mechayiv 8 lavim. So what does he do? Hachayrish b'shar v'chamar. He plows using a shar and a chamar together. So that's klayim. You're not allowed to yoke together an ox and a donkey. V'hein mukdashim, and both of them are mukdashim. The Gemara is going to say that the hegdish, and Rashi says it over here, the Rivan says it over here, that they were b'chayr. They were each. It was a b'chayr of a shar and a b'chayr of a chamar. So they're also to do work with, and he did work with them. Uklayim bekerem, and so we have 3. The fourth is that he was planting wheat in a vineyard. That he was plowing, and he was covering over the seeds of.
This is why is the Klein Bekerem, not the same as Cherish B'Shav Chamar.
We're talking about the climb of Tfuah, not
Oh,
the
this
climb
is.
of
Oh,
animal.
all right.
Yeah, so we're talking about planting seeds. He's covering over seeds that are in the vineyard and causing climb of the Tfuah. So that's 4. Uba Shvius, it's Shemitah, so that's 5. B'Yomtiv, it's Yomtiv, he's plowing on Yomtiv, that's 6. Although one is allowed to do Eichel Nefesh, but plowing is not going to result in anything growing on the same day of Yom Tov, so that's not going to be Eichel Nefesh. But Kayin v'Nazir, he's a Kayin, and he's also a Nazir. So we're up to 6, and he's a Kayin and Nazir Beis HaTumah. He happens to be a Kayin and a Nazir, and he's doing this in a Beis HaKfaros. In addition to being a field, there are also bodies there. So that's his 7 and 8. Hanani ben Hachinoy Omer, Af Halovish Klayim. He said he could also be wearing Klayim, so that will provide a 9th Isser, a 9th lav. Hashem. They said, we're only including things that come directly from the plowing. The fact that he is wearing Klayim is not relevant. He could theoretically, one would say, he could also be saying, be Mekal, be Mavarach Hashem, or all sorts of things a person can be doing simultaneously. But it has to be things that are related to the plowing. And if you go back through all of the things, he was plowing, and he knew that he was plowing over graves. So as he plowed, it brought him over them. All these things are directly related to the plowing. So he said, listen, so if you're going to say that it only has things related to plowing, the basic farce is not really related to plowing. He happens to be going into that place, but it's not a direct outgrowth of the plowing. He could be doing anything. He could be walking there. So the plowing is not what's causing it. Zak the Gemara. Amar Bibi Amar Vasi. Hoishit v'loivish loivish mamish. That which we said, I said it was the Rishonim, but this is really the Gemara discusses this. Hoishit v'loivish. So what the Mishnah said that the first part of the Mishnah, we said a person who wore Klayim a whole day, he's going to be Chayiv only one. But if he takes it off a bunch of times, if he's worn that he takes it off a bunch of times, he's a Chayiv each one. So look, Gemara, when we say that he takes it off and puts it on, Afilu machnas u'moitzi beis yad unkali shalai. Does it mean even when he takes it off? Does that mean he has to fully take it off, or it could just be that he takes off one sleeve and then puts it on? Like when you take off tefillin, you just take one sleeve out of it and he puts it on. Machli Ravacha Breder of Ika Iuliv Afuke. Ravacha Breder of Ika showed he demonstrated. So there's a machlokes rishonim what this means, that the Rivan understands it means what Rivan was saying l'chayr Rashi's pshat, that it meant he was taking off an entire clothing and putting it back on. It's not sufficient to do just one sleeve, but the other rishonim say no, it means that Hitaka showed him just taking off one sleeve. Ravashi says no, it's not necessary. When we say Paishit, Loivishu Paishit does not mean that he actually did it. You just need to give him, it means that it was enough time for him to take it off. It means if he was wearing it consecutively and he got a hasra, and then another person was master him, Teich Kadei Dibur again, that you're wearing Klayim, he's not going to be chayiv separately unless there was enough time for him to take it off and put it back on. So it's really not any different than the other cases of the Mishnah, except for that we have to give him enough time. It takes a little bit of time to do this, so you have to give him enough time to actually do it. Yesh chayrish telem. We said, so the second part of the Mishnah talked about this case, this thought experiment. A person could be mechayiv 8 lavin for plowing one row. Amrav Yanai. B'chabura nimnu v'gamru hachayfa b'klayim like. We came to the conclusion, and this is not directly from our Mishnah was brought into this discussion, but he said independently that when one is planting Klayim, all you have to do in order to be mechayiv, you can plow and cause the ground, the dirt, to go over a seed, and that's considered like you planted the seed, the tvua, in the kerem. That means normally what we usually think of as plowing is prior to sowing the seeds, you make a row in the ground. Now, obviously, just plowing itself is not climb. There's no seeds involved. There's nothing identifying it that has to do with wheat. Plowing normally is in advance of any seeds. What he's talking about here is plowing in order to pull up dirt and push it onto seeds that are lying there. That's what we call chayfa b'klayim. Amal and Rabbi Yochanan la Mishnah saying Yizu. That's what our Mishnah said. Yesh chayish talem echad v'chayiv la Mishnah shmein 11. Chayish b'shar v'chamar ve'mikdash and klayim b'kerem. Hi chayish. So we said we're talking about chayish and it's talking about klayim b'kerem. Hi chayish to mechayiv mishum klayim hechi mishkachasla. How do you have the mechayiv klayim for being chayish? Lav the michsi b'hadei the azal. Doesn't it mean that as he's plowing, he's digging up dirt and it's covering over klayim seeds? Amalei ilav the daloy lachaspa mivishkachas marganisa tusa. He says, so Rabbi Yanai said to him, listen, you're saying it's already a Mishnah. If I wouldn't have told you this din, you wouldn't have necessarily understood the Mishnah that way. You wouldn't have uncovered this jewel, is the literal translation. It means you could have understood the Mishnah differently, like as we'll see soon. Amalei Rish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan ilav the kilsa gavra rabba. And he explained to Rabbi Yochanan.
What are they asking? What's the question?
The question he said the question was that Rabbi Yanai says that an independent rule that covering over. He said I'm not coming from a Mishnah. He's an Amira, and he said there's a halacha that you can be mechayiv klayim for covering over seeds as you're plowing, which is not directly sowing the seeds. You're just covering over the seeds that are there. That's mechapa. Mechapa is a melashon of a chuppah, to cover over something. So covering over seeds is a iser klayim. So he asked, Rabbi Yochanan asked, our Mishnah says the same thing. Our Mishnah says that you can be mechuyev 8 isurim from plowing, and one of the 8 isurim of plowing is doing klayim in a field, planting wheat in a kerem, planting a different min in a kerem. The Gemara said, and so Rabbi Yochanan says, what does it mean to plow seeds? You don't plow seeds, you plow a hole and then you put seeds in. So it must mean the same din, that you're plowing and causing the dirt to cover over. So to which Rav Yanai answered, now all of a sudden you're so smart, because I said this halacha, had I not said this halacha, you would have interpreted the Mishnah differently. And now the Gemara is going to say what the alternative explanation would have been. You would have said that it's not a din of it's not the general rule that klayim is you're over on klayim by covering over when you're plowing. It could be even according to Rabbi Akiva, who says when you're makayim klayim, which is makayim means to sustain. You're keeping them, if you're keeping them in good shape. So that's also mechoyev for klayim. So maybe our Mishnah is only according to Rabbi Akiva. It means it doesn't have to be that it's called that it's equivalent to planting. It could be just he's taking care of it. The same thing would be, as we're going to see, like if he's weeding, if he's doing anything to keep something growing. So it could be he was just plowing and making it better in some way, improving the land. I think we find by trees that they would plow underneath the trees to loosen the dirt. So maybe he was just Mekayim, and that's or you could say this is a Rabbi Kiva Shita, not the Chachamim. My Rabbi Kiva, where do we see Rabbi Kiva holds like that? The Tanya. Hamenachesh, someone who is weeding. V'amachapa b'klayim. V'amachapa, or he covers over b'klayim loika. Rabbi Kiva, I'm afa Mekayim. Rabbi Kiva says it's not just someone who's machapa b'klayim or menachesh. he says even if someone who is Mekayim, my time of the Rebbe Kiva, where does Rebbe Kiva get this from? The Tanya, Sad Chalei Sizra Klaim, Ainli Eluzereya, Mekayim Inayin, Tamaloima, Behem Chalei Serbia Klaim, Sad Chalei Tizra Klaim. From the fact that the Torah says Sad Chalei Tizra, how do I know it's even extends more than that? From the fact that it says from a continuation, Behem Chalei Serbia Klaim, Sad Chalei Serbia Klaim, that let me see, what was the svara as that? So right, so we say we add the loy. You shouldn't do anything with which it's like a ribui. You shouldn't do anything with your field. That tells even allowing it to stay is also going to be awesome. Okay. So our mission is not necessarily the shita that the plowing is menachish. Our mission could also be Rebbe Kiva, who says that even not menachish, mechape. It could even be Rebbe Kiva who says all you need is just to allow the client to be in the field. So when he's plowing and not removing it, that's an issa. It's a little what one could ask on that. That one might say that that's also going to have the problem like we said about the Nazir or doing something that's not directly related to plowing. If he's plowing and as he's plowing, he's maintaining by not doing anything to the client, that's not an active part of what he's doing of the plowing. Well, it's not so directly related. Once we're saying, you're saying this only 8, l'chayra, if we're going back to saying that he's mechapa, that he's planting, he's pushing the dirt on top of, like we said on, look, after Rabbi Yanai had said that this is the din that mechapa is chayiv, so we were just now justifying why it was necessary to say that. It's not so pashut from Amish. Well, Rabbi Yanai paskin the mechapa is an Isser Klein. So he's planting. So why isn't he also Iver? In addition for the plowing on Yom Tov, he should also be Iver for planting on Yom Tov. Amalei ton of a shire. We said some things that we left. Amalei tani shmein about Amr ton of a shire. Said if you say a number, you can't say that we're just you could say, if it lists 8 things, you could say ton of a shire, but not if it said a number. Amr Rava yesh chilik malachas b'Shabbos ve'ein chilik malachas b'Yom Tov. Rava says the reason is because although the case is that on Shabbos, if one does numerous malachas, you're going to be chayiv for each one. That is not the case on Yom Tov. They learn it out from a pasuk and that pasuk is only by Shabbos. Yom Tov it doesn't apply. Amalei Adatahei said, you know what, you're right. That is a good reason why it didn't say the area that wouldn't have, since we're talking about Yom Tov, there wouldn't have been a second this. Is that true that one cannot be over on 2 separate malachas in the same helam, in the same forgetting, or under the same in the same or even 2 malchus, which is the case by Yom Tov. But Tanan hambavashal gid b'chalav, someone who cooks a gid hanasha, they put in the word hanasha b'chalav in milk, b'Yom Tov on Yom Tov, v'achlay, and he ate it like a chamish. He's over on 5 malchus. The Gemara is going to tell you why. Like a mishum eichel gid, he gets 1 malchus for eating the gid hanasha. Like a mishum avashal b'Yom Tov, shaloi l'tzarech. He's also going to be mechoyev for mavashal for cooking on Yom Tov, even though you're allowed to cook for eichel nefesh. Eichel nefesh does not include something that you're not allowed to eat. Cooking something that you're not allowed to eat is the isser of being mavashal on Yom Tov. You're over the malacha of mavashal. The like of mishum mavashal gid b'chalav. He's also going to be either gid, according to this man Amar. He holds that the gid is considered meat, which is a controversial topic, but he holds it's meat, and you're not allowed. There's an isser to cook meat and milk together. But like mishum eichel basa b'chalav, he's also eating this gid, which is basa b'chalav. The like mishum havar. And he also gets a malchus for lighting the fire that he used to cook the meat. to cook this gid in milk. Although I see, although there is a third lav involved in eating basa b'chalav, there's a iser to there's a Makkos, there's a lav of cooking it, and there's a lav of eating basa b'chalav, and there's also a lav for being having hana. From what I remember, hana does not come with a Makkos. That's why it's not included. But in any case, according to what we're saying, that there's no chiluk malachas on Yom Tov, isa mishum havara le mechayiv, the chayiv le mishum bishulei. We're saying two separate isurim that are iser Yom Tov. One is being mavashal on Yom Tov, and the other one is lighting a fire on Yom Tov. But Gemara apek havar va'ayil giranosha shel nevela. The Gemara says, so take out the iser havara. You have a good taina if you're going to hold there's no chiluk malachas, and put in instead the fact that this is a animal that was not shechted. That would be how we'd be over for eating this as the fifth isser for eating this gid hanasha in milk. We said he's chayiv 2 for the eating portion and 3 for the cooking part. Who chayiv? If we're going to say that the havara is being switched, the lav of havara is being switched to the lav of eating nevela, then you're going to have 3 eating lavin. Elo, apek havar v'ayil atzei asher. We're talking about where he burnt it using the wood of avodah zarah. The pasuk says you're not allowed to use anything. You're not allowed to be nana from avodah zarah. So that's the lav that he was over. There's a second iser regarding having hana from avodah zarah, that you can't bring avodah zarah into your house, meaning you're not allowed to benefit from it. So that should be an additional lav. So therefore, we don't want to say it's talking about he's using atzei asher, because then all of a sudden you'd be up to 6 instead of 7. He used wood that was hektish. It would have been dedicated to lebedek habayis. You're allowed to be nana. You have to burn the wood of avodah zarah, but that which belongs to Hashem, which is hektish, that you're not allowed to burn for yourself. Simin Shanboy Shanaz. This is a really continuation. The rule is that when you have an egla arufa, you have to bring the egla into the into a nachal eson, into a machal. It's not clear exactly what that means. The chayre means a place that doesn't really grow very well. It's not very agricultural, and you have to bring the egla arufa and split its skull there. And the rule is you're not allowed to work that field where this has happened in the future ever again. So why don't we say why don't we make it a case who's doing it in the Nachal Eson? And then you'll have another lav. The Torah says you shouldn't work in it and you shouldn't be zareh. They're going to just be a list of questions without any answers of a bunch of things that why weren't they included? We could have made this even a more geschmacka case. What do we talk about where? I'm sorry, this is not talking about the gid hanasha. This is talking about, I should say, the plowing. So we're talking about the person. Back to our Mishnah that said the case of plowing. So why don't we say that first of all that he did it in Nachal Eson? Why don't we say where he, as he's plowing, there's a name. The Rebbeinu Shalom's name is written on the ground, and he erases it. You're not allowed to erase Hashem's name. Someone who there's someone with tzaras lying on the ground, and he has a beheres, he has a tzaras, and as he pulls the plow, it knocks off the beheres. Why can't you say someone who knocks off the chayshin from the ephod. The ephod is the straps that hold the chayshin, and there's a lav that you can't take it off. Someone who takes out the poles that hold up the yaron. The pasuk says you shouldn't take out the poles and you shouldn't remove the chayshin from the ephod. Why don't we include also someone who's plowing using a plow made out of Atei Asher? Someone who's cutting down fruit trees as he's plowing. Amalei Reb Zeira l'Rebbe Bimani. Why don't we say when he made a shvua, he said, I'm not going to plow on Yom Tov, and now he goes nevertheless and plows on Yom Tov, and that should be a 9th lav. So tomorrow, Hasam like a chalash shvua. That's not a valid shvua. If you make a shvua that you're not going to plow on Yom Tov, doesn't take effect because one cannot make a shvua on something that he was previously not allowed to do anyway. Why don't we say that's talking about where he made the shvua not just on Yom Tov, but even during the year? Then it's not mushba v'ayimid. We didn't want to mention something, a shvua, he could do a she'ela, he could say afterwards, I never would have made that shvua, he could go to a chacham and get it rescinded. What about hegdish? We said hegdish, that he was makdish. At this point, the Gemara is assuming that it means he was makdish in the typical way. He's makdish the shar and the chamar, and that's what he's over on. So, and for the Gemara, bukhar, it's not talking about where he was makdish it, and therefore he can't be shayl on it. It's talking about a bukhar, which is nothing you can do about. Bahari nazir, why he could be shayl on his naziris. The nazir shimshin. When we remember all the way back from Nashim, we said nazir shimshin cannot be shayl. In fact, the Gemara nazir shimshin barit muila meisamu. We said 2 problems with the nazir. First of all, that he was becoming tamei mace, and also that he was, what was he doing? We said it's a kain v'nazir v'beis hatuma, and so what if he's a nazir shimshin? There's no iser tuma on a nazir shimshin. Ella haitana is iser kaila leslie. He holds that you can't since it's mushba v'ayimid to do malacha on Yom Tov, when he makes a shvua that he's not going to plow, it doesn't include the part that's included. The shvua is not going to take effect on Yom Tov. Amar Avaishi, Hamarbiya Shar Psuli HaMakdashim, someone who brings together a shar of Psuli HaMakdashim, that we got a mum, and it's no longer able to be brought as a carbon, and it was nifta, but it still has restrictions on it. So this animal, in some ways, is considered still to be kaidish. You can't do certain things. They can't be sold in the marketplace, but you're allowed to eat it. So it's considered to be partially hektish and partially not. A loika shnaim, he gets 2 malchus, because I don't understand exactly what this means. But this is the Rivan says that there's a type of klayim from putting together an animal that's kaidish with an animal that's not kaidish. I don't know where the Gemara is for this. Yeah. Amar Rav Yitzchak, Hamanig b'shar psuli hamukdashin, someone who leads a shar that is puzzle for hegdish, loika. Shahari guf echadu. So akasu b'shnei gufim. Just walking with it is as if you're working 2 separate animals. It's a climb of 2 separate animals. You don't even have to do it. It's not considered. It's not just you don't have to be marvia. Just walking with it is considered walking with such an animal. I don't know. I guess you have to let it sit in the pasture and then take it out to kill without leading it around. Yashikayach, thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you.
See you at 6:30 tomorrow, Bez Session.
Thank you.